Hello, everybody. I'm so excited for Raw Talks today. Here with me, Dr. Brandee, and with a beautiful Dr. Cami. And Dr. Cami is going to start our discussion today. I'm super excited. And go.
Um, Well, I thought today would be the topic for today would be great to talk about what makes humans unique in like the concept of consciousness. Like, why do we have this capability or this thing that's almost feels undefinable, um, versus all the other creatures that roam this planet?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And so the research that I've done on it is there's different ideas on where consciousness comes from. One could be that it's just part of the way our brains work, which is kind of debunked because when you look at like very small organisms that just require movement, right? Like you can make AI in longworms, say, and when they stimulate those, they mimic the brains of these longworms, and when they stimulate those brains, they don't move. So consciousness is more than electrical firing in the brain. Other concepts are like it's a natural progression of evolution of our nervous system and our brains, right? Just a byproduct. Uh, there could be there's the God and earth, right? Our spirit piece. And then I think this ties into the religious aspect of things too, or that spiritual piece. But the part of consciousness that makes me giddy or that gets me excited, that it really resonates, is that it really resides in the quantum parts of our brains. It's in like the tiniest spaces. And when they've looked at that, they've done research where they've taken anesthetic gas because it turns off consciousness, but it doesn't turn off our uh, automated responses, let's say, like the way your heart beats and your breath and things like that. It doesn't turn that off, but it does turn off consciousness. So they followed the gas down to these very, very small parts of the brain. And when you're looking at a quantum world, it's all possibilities are happening, right? It's not the Newtonian world where only one thing can be happening at a time and we have physics and different things. It's like all of these possibilities are there. But the pieces of the fabric of the universe is within those quantum areas. And I think that's really interesting because that connects us with the universe and it mirrors. We talked last time in our Twin Flames chat about mirrors. And so we have this mirror, the micro and the macro within us. And when you look at consciousness, it's the ability to create, it's around life's problems, it's the ability to focus in on something that you desire or fear and create something around that. And when we're made in the mirror image, we're the image of the gods or God, as they say, and God is a creator. And when you wake up in the morning, you have a limitless possibilities, all the quantum aspects that fall within our Newtonian world, right? We can't just get up and fly into the space, but all of the possibilities of what you desire are there. You could clear out your bank account. You could go to Italy, live in the mountains. You could do whatever you want, but we tend to be habitual. We do the same thing every day. We choose those choices. And the possibilities are there. And so when you understand that, then you can start understanding that what you seek, you receive. And that's where that consciousness piece comes in. So if I say, I'm going to look for blue cars today, you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, there's a lot of blue cars in this town because you're looking and you're seeking it. So if I'm going to seek joy today, I'm going to seek success, I'm going to seek my love, whatever it is, it's a mirror. And I think that that's where consciousness comes in. And I think it's pretty fascinating.
Well, I have a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Of course.
I know in the old Hebrew text, it says, we, Elohim, made gods in our image. And then over time, it was translated to God, he made man in in my image type of thing. So it took away the gods concepts or creation concepts. And I don't know if this is a question or a statement. This might be a statement. So going off of when you talked about God and creation, something kept popping in my mind, and it was, if you look into the Bible, now I'm not religion, I'm more spiritual, but I do like to study and increase my knowledge of all the different aspects of life. And then there says that, there was nothing, and then he or she thought something, and then something was created, essentially saying that's when consciousness was created, is what I'm almost hearing you say. The moment that we had a thought, that was consciousness. Because you could just be flying in the cosmos, be a creature that's you said it, what did you call it? A worm? The
Oh, the longworms. Yeah, they've done the AI research on those. Yeah.
yeah, the yellow worms are right. Just being without consciousness, from what you're saying. So I'm curious if you could tie, what are your thoughts about, you're talking about consciousness and God, and so many people get stuck on, definitions of God because with religious trauma and all the abuse in the world has happened through that concept. But let's just say God is a concept of creativity or energy or whatever, right? And something, creation. What is your concept or thought about that phrase? There was nothing. I do remember the exact phrase. It's out of nothing came something, that I call it magic, but it's like the
Yeah.
circle that was, as soon as the eye opened, then another eye came and then multiplied. It's kind of like when we give birth, like when we're creating in our womb, you start with a seed, an egg and a sperm, and then it multiplies all these cells and they keep mirroring each other and keep creating. And then as soon as that baby takes a breath, is that when the consciousness hits?
Well,
I just said
that
a
is
lot of stuff, so pick one of those.
one.
Sorry.
Well, that's the debate of when consciousness actually comes into play. So I can't answer that exactly. I think that that is almost undefinable as far as like research and science. I think that's more of a tends to fall within the faith categories of like what we believe. I feel like my children had consciousness almost immediately. They would respond within my belly. So it's hard to say.
I can agree with
Um,
that.
but I think that the whole idea of there was nothing and then there was something, we get that every day with our own lives too. I mean, that's awareness, that's conscious awareness around unconscious behaviors. You
Yeah.
know, there's and that's this the progression of awareness is recognizing that you've been doing something that you want to change and then learning the tools to change it, right?
Mhm.
And so that's the light. When they talk about light and dark or shadow and light stuff, I always think of it's ignorance and awareness.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going on over here until someone points it out or until I keep making enough mistakes where I get sick of the pattern, right?
So on that, is consciousness expandable?
I would say so, yeah. I think that because we have the capabilities of changing direction whenever we choose, that we do, right? It is expandable because we don't we are habitual beings, but we don't continuously do you have the opportunity to change and not continuously do the same
Yeah.
thing for the rest of your life. What is the saying? Some people live 100 years and some people live or like 100 years in a lifetime and some people live the same year for 100 years.
Yeah.
There's something like
Yeah,
that,
that's
right?
great.
You have that capability, and anybody who's made progress and changed something that they didn't like about themselves or they didn't like about their lives feels like they've expanded themselves into a different level. Yeah.
Yeah. I always say one of my purposes, and I think you've said this too, is to help people expand their consciousness, to see there's more to life than what is. And so one of my models is um what I believed in yesterday, I may not believe in today, and what I believe in tomorrow might be different than today, because as I expand my consciousness, how I view the world is completely different. And we're not wrong in those states, right? We're not wrong when we believe in this, and then like, oh, I believe in God. Oh, now I believe in Elohim. Oh, now I believe in, right? Because we only know what we know till we know that we didn't know what we know. And then the more we know, the less we know. I know it's a lot, but you know?
Yeah,
So
exactly. Well,
why
and
did
that
you
was
think this was an
that's
important? I'm sorry.
oh, I was gonna say that's the whole like proverb Jesus talked about with seeding, like seeds, right? Is a farmer, I'm gonna butcher this, so it's just the I mean,
Just
just
do
kind of
it Cami's
not
way.
frame it, but yeah. But it's the farmer lays the seeds, and there's a wind or someone comes and plants weeds within this field. And as things start growing, the farmer's, I don't know what's what. Just leave it. Just let it all grow. Because if you start pulling things now, you're going to ruin the whole field. Let things grow. And then when you can distinguish better what is what, you can pull and start getting rid of the things that don't suit you or you're not trying to plant. And so when
Yeah.
we have new ideas and we live in a world of so much information, you have to kind of let it ferment for a minute and like just take it for what it is and let it sit and see how it plays with your life and how it feels and how you alchemize it within, right? And that's one thing about talking and like journaling and all of these things and having a therapist or having a spiritual team or a mindset team is the more we talk about stuff that we're learning, the more our brains it's easier for us to distinguish between what we believe and what we don't. Because
Yeah.
otherwise, if we just hold it all in, that's like schizophrenia, right? It's just
Yeah.
too much. And so we have to talk it through. I mean, you're my virtual diary. I send you Marco Polos all the time, trying to like process and get through because it's a talking thing. And then I can distinguish, oh, this is my truth and this isn't.
Yeah, I like to use the word discernment. And we can talk about that at a different podcast,
Yeah.
but using discernment with the wisdom, with the knowledge that you have, and then applying wisdom. And wisdom is, it's not about just the knowledge, it's about applying it through your morals, your ethics, your spirit, you know, because anyone can be smart, but not have the wisdom, right? And so it's essential to use discernment, like you said. So why was it important for you to bring up, I think you mentioned to me the biology of God, or God is about, I forgot how you said it. Can you
I
say it
think
that way?
Well, I think faith is within us. I think it's part of our biology. I mean, there's multiple books, even mine. It talks about how our brains seek spirituality. The metaphysical experience is something that we all crave, whether we call it that or not. And when you look at the idea of God and the ideas of creation and the ideas of a quantum field within you, and this idea that we have this capability to create and to manipulate our own being in that way, I always, when I want something or when I'm like, I get fearful or I want to change something, I almost imagine like the magic school bus, like
Oh yeah, yeah, flying.
shrinking down and going inside my brain into these like very small aspects and connecting with God and being like, oh, what I want is done. I saw this reel and I wish I could remember her name now. I'll have to put it in I'll have to send it to you so you can put it in the show notes because I think she's super, super cool. But she always dresses up like a chef and she reads these little post-it notes and she's like, my day is terrible and it's never getting better. And she's like, okay, order up. And she dings and she's the universe or God. And then
Yeah,
this other version of her comes in and she's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm giving them what they want.
yeah,
And she's like, well, don't you love us? I thought you loved. She's like, I do. I'm giving you exactly what you're ordering. And so
yeah,
when I have these thoughts, I go, oh, got to change my order. And I just like, I go in as a magic school bus to like where I feel like God is in that quantum space. And I change my order. And then I'm like, okay. And then I can just trust that I can let it go and that it'll come. And I think that when you think of it that way, like God's breath moves the Milky Way, God's breath moves within me, and the same fabric that's within all things is like in my brain or in me. It makes me feel like that knowing that you're connected to something bigger, it's like having mama's unconditional love wrapped around you, which unfortunately not all of us get, but you can seek that out within you. So
yeah. Well, I think I think a lot of the world is they don't like to use the word God or Jesus because something external said it how it should look. And so we've been taught to not go internal. And I believe that we all are gods and goddesses, like all of us, because it doesn't make any sense to come from a fabric, like you said. I like it. The fabric of consciousness, the fabric of what, God is the fabric per se. That's what we, label it. but we come from this fabric of creation and we're created. How can we not be a God or part of that fabric or that creation? And so I think if people know that when we're talking about God in our context, yeah, there's a fabric outside of us, but there's also within us. And then we get to tap into that, like you said, into the, you said the word and my brain just froze, but the quantum
Quantum.
aspects within us. Um, and I still, my brain is like, tell me more about this quantum idea, right? Because I hear about it all the time. There's quantum healings, quantum light. And when I tap into it, it's like the fabric of everything. But you're talking about, not going external, but going internal and connecting to the breath or the energy that's within you and not living off other people's opinions, but expanding your own consciousness within the fabric of creation. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we're changing the way that your brain functions and moving from the amygdala to the prefrontal cortex. And when that happens, you have those moments where you feel like things are just flowing. It's called being in flow. It feels like you're in the zone. Things are flowing through you. It's called the forever box. It's called all kinds of things, but we've all experienced it. And you're like, whoa. And it actually uses less energy of my brain. So I'm in like this massive production, massive creativity. The inner critic shuts off, time gets funky, like all of this really cool stuff. Healing can happen. And it feels like somebody else is kind of taking the seat. You're just like you're in flow. You're in with something, someone's there to help you. And because it feels so metaphysical, like why can't it be? Everybody has this birthright, right?
Yes, but I love because me, I mean, we are both metaphysical but logical beings, I would say. We both thrive on education, learning more. We understand that what we know today may change tomorrow. And so we're very vulnerable and raw with all this stuff that we're still learning. Because even now, what I know or what you know is still a drop in the hat, right? Like, what are we missing? And that's what most people seek is what's missing. So with all of this, what I like about what you're talking about is people want to make it either spiritual or physical or well, I'll call it biology. They only want to make it metaphysical or biology, but then we're the middle pillar, right? We as the humans are, I mean, I think it's amazing to think that our bodies house the metaphysical, but it also houses the biology. And when we learn to flow together with both of those, it creates the middle pillar. And I feel like that's what you're talking about because we are in a era, which is very beautiful. I call it the healing era, right? We're really trying to move away from the trauma era, coming into an understanding that we have a consciousness and we can expand that consciousness, but we can't just black and white things, right? So what you're saying is we house the metaphysical, and why not use biology to build that relationship? Now, I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm hearing you say. What would you say to that?
Yeah, it's
How would you
hackable.
expand on that?
It's hackable. That's what
Tap.
I'd say.
Love it.
It's
Tell me
hackable.
more.
Like, so if you are focused on your curiosities, and that's where we are. We're knowledge seekers and we're spiritual seekers. So that's where our curiosity is. And that gap between, it's like, well, this is this, and this thing over here is this, but there's something that connects them, and I'm not sure what that is. That's where you're like, ooh, and that's where your passion blooms. And so when you look at the biology, the neurochemistry of, and I'm going to say flow state because that's basically what it is, and so you can look all that up on your own too. But the neurochemistry that happens when you are seeking your curiosities and your pleasures and different things like that, like that's what moves you into that space. And so if you live your life that and it feels like everything's always in line, right? So being in flow is you're almost near perfect decision making. I mean, that's not perfect. You can't, trust all of it. But if you're almost in near perfect decision making and you're in that mode, like you just feel productive, you feel good, you're using being more productive with your goals with less time, like all of these things.
How do you do that? Because you keep talking about biohacking, right? You can hack it. So let's use an example of someone who's stuck. Someone who isn't is procrastinating, isn't motivated, is just kind of a stuck.
Mhm.
I do believe that most people don't like that feeling, but they really don't know what to do, right? There's almost no out. So is there any directions? Because if we bring it back consciousness, I guess my question is no. What I hear you saying is we have this consciousness that we can use. When you're in flow, it merges and it moves together and you're flowing, things start to happen. But if you're not, it doesn't. So I guess my question to you is how do we take that stuckness, hack it, and expand the consciousness if we're stuck?
Well, it depends on where you're stuck, but most people will get inspired to do something and then they run into a limitation and then they get stuck and they feel like, well, I wasn't meant to do this.
That's
And
beautiful.
that's not the case. It's just the way that everything flows, the way we learn, the way we develop new skills. There's friction. There's neuropinephrine that comes in, and that is a sign that things are going well, that you're actually like pushing through and learning. And when you're in a friction state, you're in a learning curve too. Well, if you think about any new skill set, whether that's learning to play the guitar or anything like that, or writing a book or anything you want to do, and there's friction with your goals, doesn't mean that you're not meant to do it. There's two things. You have to assess what your tool sets are and what you need to do, right? What education, research, what tool sets do you need to build up so that you can overcome this? Because if it's one thing to say, I want to play the guitar, but I don't have a guitar.
Right.
Okay, then build up your tool sets. The other thing is if you're hitting against a wall too much, you have to recover. We have to surrender a piece. So recovery and surrender is like when you are, say you're working on a project and you're writing code. Let's use code because my mom was in IT. She loves this scenario. She's like, oh, I love it. You're writing code and you're just like, you're not getting it. Something is just, it's not coming. You get up and you walk away. It's a bird on my window now. And you walk away, you go get a glass of water, you go play basketball, you do something. No input, no output. You're just completely like put it on the side for a minute. And then the process is that the next step will come to you. You get those aha moments. Oh, that's what I need to do. And you can go back to it. Right. And sometimes that takes a little time. There's a trust that has to be built up too with like, what's your responsibility and what's God's responsibility. So I want this, and I know God will give me he knows what I want more than I do. But, you know, when I get those aha moments or when I get that next step, I'm responsible for taking action on that.
Yeah.
And when I get stuck, I have to let that go and I have to wait for the next inspiration to come through. Now, how that all flows and moves is dependent and on like where you get stuck and how can we build up the tools and where you need to go. You understand where you're moving to and when it's going to get hard, it's not scary. And then you don't have stress about being stuck either.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, a couple of things are coming to my mind from a therapeutic perspective, right? Not a spiritual perspective, but therapeutic would be, okay, someone's stuck, I think that's why they say exercise is so essential for people because
Yeah.
you're
Huge.
housing your consciousness in this physical body. So if, say you're stuck in your heart chakra and your heart chakra says, I'm not worthy, and so then you go work out with intention of clearing up a block but with no thinking, just set the intention, go work out. And the next thing you know, like, oh, there's my clarity. Or, oh, I'm triggered because of blank. And then you work through that trigger. Because we do have things that have happened to us in this human condition that causes us to believe we're not worthy. And in metaphysics, it's about the information getting stuck in your etheric field, right? I do etheric reconstruction with the modern mystery school because we really do hold a lot of trauma in our ether field. And when we do that, it kind of leaks to the brain and the rest of the body. So there's
Mhm.
different things like moving energy, I mean, I think it's great how there's this prison, I think it was in Arizona, and in order for the inmates to earn TV time, they would have to work out so the bike would generate electricity for the TV. Now, the reason I brought this example up is because using your biohacking, I'm thinking reversing that. We have the energy within us, so we have to work for it to manifest through, to activate our minds, some people, our minds, our heart, our stomach, depending on the philosophy, but so the block gets moved out, or if not, it just builds the same energy. So if you just stay in the chair being a victim, or, having a limitation, but you just let the limitation be without the manifestation steps you're talking about, then the energy just stays stagnant and gets heavier and heavier and heavier because, like you said earlier, the universe is listening to you.
Mhm.
Oh, you're not worthy? Yeah, you're not. Okay, if that's what you want, honey. Right now, that means in some ways the earth is enabling us. They don't because
Yeah.
we are in the energy of enabling, thinking we're doing something out of love, and it's actually hurtful. So I like the idea. So what are some examples of, if you know someone who is saying, I really want this, but I'm hitting these limitations, and you can feel the heaviness of their consciousness, their mind, their thoughts, their biology, and their spiritual. What assignment would you give someone who wants to expand their consciousness, who doesn't want to be stuck, but is? What would you tell them to do? What would step one be?
I think step one is your intention and why. You need a strong why. But I do like the whole idea of movement and active recovery. TV does not get you that active recovery piece and that aha moments. We want to work on developing the neurochemistry that puts you right on the edge of gamma waves, and that's where those aha moments come. But um, intention and curiosities. So the intrinsic motivators have to be there. I always say nobody changes till they're sick of their own bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's within my practice and within my personal life. Like, I can't change you. I can, and you shouldn't change for other people. You should want to change for yourself. And so
So much about that.
yeah, like, so
What?
what's your why?
Yeah.
What's the why? And also you have to be curious. If you think about curiosities, like that's the number one step in getting into a desired like state and creating a life of pleasure, because you're actively like excitedly curious about certain things.
Mm.
So
I
those
like
would
the
be my
idea. I always say self-observation is the number one way to change, right? But still with curiosity is start with internal curiosity. That's what I hear you saying is why? Why am I choosing to live in this stuck state? Why? I mean, because sometimes you have to do the hard, ugly before the flow happens, right?
yeah.
And so you have to do your own eyes. So I like your being curious with the self. Why am I choosing to sit here? Why am I choosing not to? Why am I choosing these to be my limitations? Why am I not taking action? It's a lot of work, right? So
Well,
being curious with yourself and what you're curious about externally, so internally and externally. What was the second one you said?
well, I think that those are the two why, and your why connects with the vision and the limitations. So
Oh,
when
beautiful.
you remember when you think of your why, I want to, I don't know, write a book, and I can see myself, New York Times bestseller. It's gonna be amazing. And
I've
then I
had that in
sit
my
down to
mind.
write. No, I don't have a computer, and nothing's coming out. Like
Yes.
it's all
Okay.
connected. The way we think, the way we strategize completing a goal is different than how we implement the goal. And so
Yeah.
when you understand all of these pieces, then you can hack it because you know what connects to each other, you know what motivates each other, you know when the friction is coming. You can set yourself up for success, and you don't have to be stressed about being stressed. The stress is going to come. That's part of being human. Being human is having problems, and consciousness is creating solutions and creation around problems because they're not going to go away. But when you understand that they're always there, then you can see them as a gift. Oh, I'm on the right track. I got friction coming. I got
Yeah.
criticism. I
Yeah.
got, and it's a
Yep.
gift. Yeah.
Yep. I love that. So, I believe we're hitting our time.
Okay.
Are we? I can't tell. I just love talking, but I think we're hitting our time. So what I hear you saying is, we are set aside from other creatures on this planet because we have a consciousness, and we get to choose to do something with that consciousness and expand it. And it starts internally with your whys and looking at why I want to do something, why I don't do that something. And consciousness is finding solutions with knowledge to create and manifest something new that other creatures, I mean, maybe on different levels they do, but we're talking about the human level. It's pretty
Yeah,
powerful.
it is very powerful. And I think that when you start weaving in some of this stuff about like, oh, and we all have heard Carl Sagan, you are made of star stuff. All of these things come to play. It's not a belief system. It's actual stuff that happens in anybody and for everybody and anybody. And you've stumbled upon it. I tell people all the time, like everybody has unconsciously created grit and gone and done the hard things. You've done that. So can you do it consciously? And then you're always reliably moving forward. And that's the objective piece. And so it's hacking your biology to have faith that God is within you, or that universal fabric. I love that word, fabric is part of you. And so it's taking away this, if I'm worthy, I deserve it. Like you take that away because you already know you do, because it's inside you. It's just there. It's like your heart beating. It's there.
Yeah, when you keep learning, looking external. Now, I love external stuff to a degree where I can gain wisdom or knowledge from things external, like from philosophy, esoteric teachings, just learning from outside teachers, and even my angels and guides. They're with me, but external. However, the answers really come from my taking the actual step to expand my own consciousness. But we have all these tools that we've forgotten. And then we black and white it. So stop blacking and whiting it. That sounds
Well,
good.
that's the quantum field too, is all things are possible. And so then you start to develop a mindset that has a broader view than the duality. It's like a debate team. If you're going to debate against somebody, you have to know their subject in and out as well as your own defense. Like you have to understand that. And so when you can start seeing everything as like a possibility and everything has a truth to it, and not everybody's trying to be malicious, they just are having, you start having these ideas and these thoughts, and it just expands you, being like, you're not tunnel visioned anymore. And I think that's where the expansion comes in. It's not tunnel vision on, well, I was taught this and this and this. Now my experience is showing me this. And like the people I love are more this way. And it broadens your ideas.
I love it. The goal of you and I to expand the consciousness. And can you please tell us the name of your book?
Oh, Mending the Sacred
little
Self.
changes, but sorry, one more time.
Mending the Sacred Self, and it's available on Amazon. And you have a book out.
I
You got
do.
multiple
I have a
books out.
couple. Yeah. Love Thyself is my one that I am, I think everyone should have. The same thing with your book. They really are helpful. So check it out.
Yeah.
If they looked up your name on Amazon, what would they, Dr. Cami?
Oh, God, I don't even know what's on there. Walensky, Gillette. We'll put the links in the descriptions for
Okay.
Amazon.
Well, put the links in the descriptions if you guys are interested in the books. Cami talks a lot about the biology, which I think is so essential. We can't have just one or the other, but both. So thank you for talking to us today about consciousness and all the different ways of looking at that. I think it's a conversation that can probably continue throughout the rest of our conversations. So
I think so. It'll probably get weaved in for sure.
we'll weave it in as we understand ourselves and love ourselves more and more every day. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Please
Bye.
subscribe and like. If you have any questions, please post them and we will get to them when we can. Yeah, we can make a whole podcast on one of your questions.